So right now, I welcome Dipender ji, our director of the water program, to speak about CSE's water program.
On behalf of CSC, I would like to welcome everyone. I can recognize many faces. Shantanu, I just recognize she's there. So the idea of the workshop, as my colleague Sushmita has shared, is to discuss this issue of lakes and water bodies rejuvenation from three dimensions. One, of course, is from the practice on the ground. The other is the urban planning side. And the first one is about a conceptual understanding of why and what of lakes and water bodies rejuvenation. So we are looking at it from broadly three aspects. So we try to organize the sessions accordingly, and we know that there is a lot to learn from on all these three topics also, but we will try to plan the sessions accordingly so that we can have a good discussion. So most of our speakers here will not be either making presentations or just sharing about 4 or 5 slides in there. And then we hope that this is team gathering with all your experience you can input on the discussion. I will, because some people here were asking me what about CSE and about its program. So I thought we will also quickly share what we do at CSE. So broadly, CSE is an NGO which was set up in the mid 80s. uh, that was the time I also started working in the NGO sector. So in India, especially in Delhi, there were only big four NGOs, I would call them. That time, CSC was one, Society for Promotion of Wasteland Development, Development Alternatives, and the fourth was PRIA. So these were all established around 83, 85. That was the time when India was transitioning from what I would say a state-led capitalist development to a neoliberal modern development in the 90s when we opened up the completely. And that was also a very golden period of India's NGOs. A lot of pioneering work was done that time by all organizations, including CSC and several other organizations. I don't mean to demean any others, but I was just giving you a history of how NGOs evolved in the 90s, 80s, and it was a transition period from one to the other. So there was a lot of freedom for NGOs to also do many things which they could do, which is slowly disappearing now. So CSC's background is this: CSC doesn't implement projects. So we don't have project-based uh, initiatives. We do action research, advocacy, capacity development, cross-learning. So the idea of CSC is that we fill the practice to policy gap through this, not through projects. A lot of NGOs in the 80s were doing that. They were doing projects because if you see everything at that time till the 80s was macro. It was big dams, big projects. See, NGOs came up with small projects, watershed development, you know, DWATs and all that. So they filled that critical gap which was there. But CSE has focus has been on, you know, keeping an independent, credible voice and not getting into project implementation. So if you see, this is a water program is one of the CSE's programs, which is air pollution, climate change, industry, education. So water and sanitation or wastewater is just one of our programs. The biggest team in actually CSE, given the state of India's environment report and its publications, is the down to earth team. So it has journalists also, which are which has field reporters. So a lot of journalism today doesn't have field reporters. And so this is the bird's eye view of what we do. We also have a lab which provides, it also does testing for water and sanitation. It is based in our training campus, which is this Anil Agarwal Environmental Training Institute. So we do a lot of our trainings there. Now, I think this infographic has disappeared. Okay, it is there. I can't see it here. So if you see, look at urban sanitation, because this is a slide which is hidden under that top one, doesn't matter. Okay. Government is banned also. Anyway, so from infrastructure creation till the 70s or 80s, urban sanitation moved to infrastructure service level benchmarking. So they said service level is important, not how many lengths of pipes you have developed. And now in sanitation, we are talking of inclusive sanitation and how to improve functions and outcomes in sanitation. So I'll try to see if this can move down. This bar. At least this is dead. So the profile, if you see, as I mentioned, it was keeping an ear to the ground and developing a conceptual clarity, because you cannot do anything without a conceptual clarity. And that is very important. The conceptual clarity tells you what should be done, and how it has to be done comes from our engagement into programs and planning. And there you have to focus on planning and designing. So a lot of our training modules focus on orientation, planning, designing. And that's the trajectory we try to go. If we just focus on orientation and not talk of planning and designing, we are just talking of the 90s or 80s language. So we have to move from planning to designing, and the same applies for lake management and rejuvenation work as well. Or have I shifted it? So if you see what is the scope of the program, these are the themes we work on. Water source sustainability, a framing of water sensitive cities, climate change, reuse. I don't need to read all this, but this gives you the kind of scope in which we operate. And therefore, what we are doing as program outcomes are also doing research and advocacy, which engages with the national and the state government. Advocacy as a credible independent voice, because CSE doesn't implement projects. It allows us to critique and appreciate any project or any technology or any treatment system. We work on sanitation systems also, and we have a global outreach. So whatever we are doing as CSE in India, we try to take up Africa and Asia. So the areas of work, we have broadly three teams, as was shown in the first slide. We have a circular economy and sanitation team. So if you see, the trajectory is the same. The other slides I will not repeat, but we assess the current practices, we develop assessment tools, we look at planning and designing, and through that we are looking at addressing the critical gaps, policy advocacy, and technical guidance. So these are the things which we do in all our programs. So if you see, areas of work are defined, that's how we operate without getting into projects. Climate resilience and water security. So this is the work which, welcome sir, I will just finish what I'm doing. So this is the team which has produced this report, or oh, sorry, the workshop on lakes and water bodies rejuvenation. And we have also a state level team, which is working in UP. So a water program team has 6 members based in UP, which support the state government in 2 areas. One is fecal sludge management, and the other is lake rejuvenation. So, and also since Nalin Srivastavaji from NMCG is here, a lot of some of the work in UP has been supported by NMCG, the 2 demonstration projects which we did, and what we continue to support there in the fecal sludge management work. We also have come up with this because when we are talking of lake rejuvenation, fecal sludge management, what is the perspective we are doing? Why we are doing it? So in the morning, I was having this discussion with Professor Raval and Saraswat and Janagarajanji that a lot of concepts and frameworks come from the West and they're dumped here. And many times we end up doing a copy paste. So we are focusing also on this, what is actually a water sensitive, climate sensitive city from a global south perspective, rather than just saying sponge city, water sensitive urban design planning, SUDs, all these concepts are there. We are not saying they're not relevant, but what does it mean for us? So we are trying to say that any city which calls itself water sensitive should commit to a just and equitable use and reuse of wastewater. See, wastewater is not a priority in the West. They don't reuse it. So it's not even in their realm of thinking. Neither is planning in the realm of thinking. So they talk of water sensitive urban design and planning. We should be talking of water sensitive urban planning and design, because planning ही नहीं है तो design तो कब आएगा? So that is how we try to develop our guiding principles based on the problems here. We don't have a long-term vision. We have mostly 5-year, missions, but we don't have a 20-year urban sanitation policy at the state level, city level, national level. Climate change, we know, exacerbates already the problems which are there. It can create a problem of high intensity rainfall, but mostly the problems are accentuated because of climate change. The design, I already said, is given overemphasis to equity and justice, and water conflicts are the main things we are addressing. In our cities, global south, water conflicts are there, even rural areas. In Europe or America, water conflicts are very different. They are not manifesting, they are there as well, but ours are very different. And we have to improve functionality. So everybody says water sensitive cities. What are you talking about? The Monash University framework has 10 indicators or index. What is your index and indicators? So what we are saying is not rocket science. All we are saying is from our context, there are 4 things which we need to do. And the cities should show progress on these parameters. One is functional infrastructure and services. Our infrastructure, even if it is there, doesn't work or doesn't work as per standards. Our STPs don't perform as per standards. Our water supply systems fail. There should be a functionality and inclusiveness. So functional should also be inclusive. If 50% of Delhi is still not connected to sewer system, then doing a few projects here and there, will that make water sensitive cities? It's not likely. Substantial reuse of treated wastewater and biosolids should happen. Again, this is not something radical we are saying, but we are saying that any city which says we have become water sensitive should show that progress. And both both biosolids and liquids. And fourth is mitigating in situ urban flooding. So in the morning, again, informally before the workshop, Professor Janak Rajan was saying 90 to 95% runoff happens in our cities. So we have earlier flooding used to happen because of rivers. Yamuna used to flood, and now this year there is no news of Yamuna flooding, but Delhi is flooding still because of this in situ urban flooding, which is happening. So we need to address this. And as long, there was a call I got about 3 weeks back from somebody in Golf Links. Golf Links is the most posh area in Delhi. And that gentleman said, we have a flooding issue. What can we do? So I said, okay, there are 2 ways you can address it. One is you put the water underground so that it goes down. The other is that it drains away. There are only 2 ways you can get rid of excess water. So what is your water table? So he said in some places 10 feet. Golf links, 10 feet water table. So I said, then fine, you can't put it down, you have to take it out. So he said, can CSC help us in doing something? So I said, we don't work at colony level or, and this is not a problem of golf links. आप यहाँ से निकालेंगे, वहाँ चला जाएगा. So you get together 3-4 areas and then present a plan to DJB about drainage. And the Delhi's drainage is another issue we will not discuss now. But this is basically sharing the CSC overview. Our work in Global South, we have some MOUs and engagement, both in rural water as well as urban. And we have these partnerships globally. All our publications, except for a few which are priced, are open source. So our website, if you go, you can download all these publications. These are some of the publications. About 4 or 5 of them are outside, 10 copies each. Anybody can take them there for distribution. And this is some of the work in UP, which we have done is on fecal sludge management. So CSC follows a very rigorous process. We look at what is actually to be done on the ground. That is the niche role of CSC. So all if you see documenting the status of septage management, the financing, operations and maintenance, indexes, all that we do as part of our work. And that's how some of our photographs, I don't need to. This is our teams. We have 2 teams in Delhi and 1 team in UP, and that is it's all credit to the team members who do this kind of work. Thank you so much. I would like to welcome the Professor, Nalin Srivastavaji, and Yugal Kishorji has been very kind also to come. And Sushmita, you can take over.
Thank you, Dipenderji. That was a very good insight of our program. So now we welcome Nalin Srivastav sir to share the keynote so that we can set the program and start on that line.
Good morning, everybody. A lot of familiar faces. And so today's workshop on recharging water bodies is a very important subject as far as Namami Gange is concerned, and as far as the overall, I would say, water security of the country is concerned. Now, we know that there are several districts, several cities in India which are water stressed. Now, we need to have a proper, comprehensive program in place to take care of water bodies so that we are able to kind of reduce the stress of these cities. One important part is, and again, this issue can be tackled at 2 levels. One is policy interventions, planning, taking a holistic approach for rejuvenation of water bodies within the district, within a administrative boundary of cities, district, and a particular area. And then the second part is that we are looking at the engineering solution and a technical solution, that how we are going to manage these water bodies. Now, as has been pointed out, that there are problems in the district. Delhi has been pointed out that on one hand we have so much of rainfall where the entire city is flooded, and on the other hand we have Yamuna where there is hardly any water. So we need to have a proper planning in place at the urban infrastructure level, where we plan our infrastructure in such a way that we are able to uh, manage the water which is coming through as part of rain, catch it, and ensure that it goes through proper channels. Now, for doing this, we will require, again, technology. We will require different types of solution. One, within the administrative boundaries, like if we can create recharge structures, if we can create a structure which is able to elevate the groundwater level, and this water which is there, we should be able to kind of conserve this water and ensure that it does not go a waste. Now, another very important aspect which has been touched upon is basically the circularity of water economy, where the not exactly, we'll not call it wastewater, but it again has a lot of resource, and we are able to utilize that resource for the benefit of the population of the city, by having a proper policy in place, by having a proper incentive place. Recently, we had a meeting of Empowered Task Force, where Honorable Minister Jal Shakti said that when we are comparing wastewater with, for any scenario, we should look at the opportunity cost which the fresh water will require. Like in power sector, we are saying that taking this wastewater and reusing it is very costly. Now, this we are saying because the fresh water doesn't have any cost. But if we add the economic value to the fresh water which the power plant is using, then the economics becomes completely different. So we have to be aware of this aspect, that when we are using a certain resource, what is the opportunity cost we are going to give, that is very important. And that is why we should have a comprehensive plan for reuse, and ensuring that in the policy guideline, at the city level, at the district level, at the state level, we are able to introduce this reuse of treated water. And now there is a national framework which is available, which has been launched by National Mission for Clean Ganga for reuse of treated water. And we have asked all the state governments to align their reuse policy or to develop their reuse policy aligned to that national framework, so that we have a uniform policy throughout the country for reuse of treated water throughout the country. So that's one aspect that we are handling at the policy level, that all the state government policy is aligned to the national policy on the reuse of treated water. And then this is one dimension to it. The second dimension is that how we are going to utilize this and how technology and research can help. Like we got a research conducted through Remote Sensing Institute, where we have identified certain paleo channels from Kanpur to Hathras, where the water can be stored in that paleo channels and can be used when it is required. So these kind of interventions, when we are looking at the technological part, and we should be looking at the geological structure and the nature-based solution to try to ensure that the water which is there, which comes, does not go waste. So that's another dimension to this problem, that we are using the geological data and the rainfall data to have a proper modeling done. Then another aspect related to technology is that we have this managed aquifer recharge models, where we run those models to identify recharge sites and then recharge those sites to increase the base water level. Now, for this also, we have now NMCG has got a project commission with IIT BHU, where we have asked them to kind of use this Varuna River as a living lab, where they would develop a model, test that model, that whether the recharge sites which have been predicted by this model is actually coming true when we are validating at the ground level. And then this model can be used across the country for recharging water bodies. So it requires a comprehensive approach, and we have to tackle it at various levels if we want to actually make a difference. And then now, along with this, another very important component is people's participation. We have to ensure that people are aligned to this aspect. They are aware of the importance of water. They are aware of what water means to an economy and what is the importance of water for a country going forward. So people's awareness for this aspect is also very important, and we need to address that aspect by designing our communication, by having a proper communication strategy aligned to the requirements, that we are able to get the right message to the people so that we can commit them to this cause. So these are some of the dimensions. I know that this workshop is going to have a deliberation at a much detailed level, where all these aspects related to urban planning, the hydrological aspects, where you deal with the modeling and to see that how the recharge of water bodies can be done, then how people awareness can be increased, and then looking at the geological and all those solutions, that how we can use those channels which are there to rejuvenate and recharge our water bodies. Because we have seen many examples where nature-based solutions have actually done much more than what we kind of the hard interventions can do. In fact, now NMCG is also there is a separate vertical which deals with small river rejuvenation, and in that we are trying to approach all the rivers through this comprehensive approach. The first river which we have identified where we are going to do interventions is this Falgu river, which is also called Niranjana River in Bihar. And there was a program launched by Honorable Governor of Bihar called Namami Niranjana program, where we are trying to see that the water table, which has now gone down around 4 to 5 feet, or at places even 2 to 3 meters, that can come up. And then over a period of time, this becomes a flowing river. In fact, the number of rivulets and rivers are so large that we need to kind of approach this problem for all the rivers by validating this concept at least in 2-3 rivers. So that's how we are approaching that. First, we will validate that how a river rejuvenation can be approached through engineering solution, along with people awareness and along with the urban planning. Once we are able to kind of develop a successful model, then we will kind of develop a generic framework. Obviously, each river, each city will have its own unique problem. So there won't be a kind of that one solution will be fit for all the rivers, but then at least a template can be developed that how we have to approach a small river rejuvenation. And so that aspect, we are now very carefully working on that aspect. And we have recently awarded a project in UP for second to third order tributaries of Gomti River. Now, these second to third order tributaries of Gomti River, how we can recharge and get those rivers flowing and get adequate waters in those water in those rivers. Because what happens is, at times we were looking at a presentation very recently. One of the rivers was put in that presentation as a drain. Now, sometimes what happens is that if you neglect river for some time or for a number of years, then it becomes a drain and you start identifying it as a drain. But it was actually once a flowing river. So we need to identify all those rivers. And in fact, we have created a database for small rivers and we have kept that database, and that becomes our universe where all our interventions will be ultimately planned. But then again, we are going in a phased manner. First, we want to validate the concept that how we can rejuvenate a small river. We are also working parallelly on urban river management planning. We are going to develop 25 urban river management plans to see how the policy level interventions can take care of this problem, and small river rejuvenation comprehensively, how it can be addressed. So then all the both of the aspect will be tailored together to see that how we can go for rejuvenation of water bodies and small rivers. So that's how we want to proceed. And I think this CSE workshop which we are doing is a right intervention at a right time, where we would be able to kind of deliberate all our water professionals, and which I am not, but we will be able to kind of come with a proper solution where we find a way that how we can go ahead further. And this will add some value to the vision which is there in NMCG, where we are trying to bring back water and rejuvenate the small rivers and dying rivers, and ensure that these rivers are kind of become fully flowing and are vibrant rivers going forward. Thank you very much. Wishing this workshop a very heavy success and happy deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And thank you for your kind words. And so we catch few very important points where NMCG is working, and we are thrilled to know about the small river rejuvenation program, and rightly said about the holistic approach and comprehensive approach. And yes, we are looking into the nature-based solution, and public awareness is equally important. And with this, I welcome Yugal Kishore Joshi ji, Program Director in Niti Aayog, right now dealing with lakes and water bodies. Yugal Kishore ji.
Dignitaries on and off the dais. Monday morning, it's difficult to hear, lengthy lectures. I'll try to keep it as short as possible. But first of all, thanking Sushmita ji and Dipender ji for inviting me here. We all know CSE's work, what CSE has been doing all over these years. And I have the privilege to see many of their work, as much as I enjoyed reading back from the brink. It's a wonderful, wonderful book, a wonderful compilation of success stories all around the country. 2-3 things which I want to emphasize today. because as Nalin said, all experts are here. We are no expert. Still, Dapinderji said one very nice thing, that we should be the conceptual clarity. Whether we have that or not, that is very important. I remember I belong to a very remote place, Uttarakhand, where whenever flood was talked, it was about the river, rise in the level of river. But floods we never saw. But what we saw in 1984, I very much remember in Navbharat Times, picture of Minto Bridge, how a bus was struck in that Minto Bridge flood in 1984. Much later, when I was studying water management and other things and meeting Lee Kuan Yew, the great Lee Kuan Yew, around 2009 or 10, almost same picture was there in the internet. So he also questioned, India doesn't change. You are an old civilization, you don't change. Only yesterday or day before yesterday, Nepal lost more than 150 people in flood. And you can see the pictures of Kathmandu, which I have never seen before, completely flooded Kathmandu. And these scenes are not new now to us. We saw Pakistan flood a couple of years back. We have been habitual, seeing rural areas inundated by the floods and all these things. But this urban flooding is a new phenomena here. And when we talk about recharging of water bodies, what do we mean by water bodies? In 1965, when Singapore got its independence, they had 3 reservoirs. They used to import their water from Malaysia. Now they have 17 reservoirs and more than 8,000 kilometer long canals, drains, and all these things, that all in a city state that is only 700 square kilometers. You compare that city state with any of our cities and the condition of our drains. Perhaps, we don't consider drains as our water bodies. That concept is not still here. And that's why our drain management is so pathetic. Why management of water in cities? Why management or recharging or rejuvenating of water bodies in cities is important? Because when India got independence around 1951, roughly 7 crore people were living in the cities. Now the number has gone up to 33-34%, and by 2030, we approximately will be having 40% of our population living in cities. When you compare it globally, it is estimated that by 2050, 70% of global population will be living in cities. And do you know how much surface area of land on earth cities occupy? Only 3%. So in that 3% of land, 70% of population will be living. That means one of my guru, used to say that 2 things regarding water management. One is everything that pollutes land pollutes water. Everything. So all your recharging, all your taking everything into the drain or drain to the river gets, waste when your streets are not clean. Delhi, as all of you know how much waste we generate and how much we treat. Roughly 11,000 metric tons we generate per day, and how much we treat it. Secondly, if you just simply calculate that if in Delhi 2 crore people are living and everybody is supplied with 135 liters of water, and they use roughly if 20%, 25% of that, rest goes at used water or waste water, where all that is going. If you simply calculate on back of your envelope, you will find that it's roughly 40 billion liters per day. And how much is our treating capacity? Again, giving example from Singapore, you cannot separate land, you cannot separate that with water. Land and water and their issues are inseparable. In Delhi or in India, our rainwater collection, rainwater harvesting is only 8%. And if I compare it with Singapore, then it's 85% of land mass, land surface is catchment area. We are, the kind of urban planning they have, the kind of unison they have between their uh, urban development board and the public utility board, which provides water, is unique. And in India, two computers don't talk to each other. And until and unless this connection, between different agencies, because drain is being looked after by somebody else, water bodies are looked after by water bodies means lake, and these all things are looked after by somebody else. Rivers are looked after by somebody else, and nobody is in, whenever planning, these things are not on same plane. Recently, since 2014, in NDA government's time, we have been hearing people's participation. First, we saw very huge program, Swachh Bharat Mission Part 1, Phase 1, that was about building toilets and inspiring people, encouraging people to not only build toilets, but use them as well. You just think, if in 2014, 60 crore of Indians were defecating in open, and if everybody defecates 400 or 300 grams, so per day, that much of the waste, fecal waste, was on the surface. And ultimately, that goes into all your water bodies. And how we overcome, despite many kind of reservations, many kind of comments. Recently, Nature published an article on Swachh Bharat Mission and its success, how it impacted health of the people. That burden of fecal waste has been reduced drastically, and how it was made possible because Prime Minister talks about, people's participation, why that is important. Sometimes I feel very strongly that when there was no piped water supply, when there was no government intervention of giving you water, the kind of water bodies, the kind of ponds and other things in our villages were very clean, much clean, because people used to take care of them. Suddenly, we have created some kind of atmosphere where government is responsible for providing you supply. Government is responsible for taking these things out, and people's role from that have almost completely cut off. This kind of thing is very worrisome, and why Prime Minister keeps on is insisting on these people's participation. I will tell you one very, very encouraging, success stories on national level. One was Jal Shakti Abhiyan, which he started around 2019 or so. That was followed by Catch the Rain. These all things were focused on how we can inspire the locals to take care of their water bodies, to maintain them, to keep them upright, or, create new one. A couple of years ago, government launched Amrit Sarovar. These are not urban examples, but they are important. So Amrit Sarovar was a scheme where every district was asked to create 75 water bodies or rejuvenate 75 water bodies within a year. And the condition was that each water body should be minimum 1 acre of the area. In 1 year's time, 65,000 such water bodies were created or rejuvenated. Then that's a huge moment. Sometimes I wonder, if in rural areas, I go and ask people to separate their gila kachra and sukha kachra, they very happily do that. Rural population does that. But if I ask you people, living in high-rise buildings or living in towns, whether you separate your kachra or not, we hardly do that. But we are more educated. We know more about environment and these all things. So that behavior change, that nudge, I think that is very important. Nalin also talked about this behavior change and how we are inculcating these values in our kids. That's very, very important, because I was reading some Mughal times, book on lakes and rivers in Delhi. Delhi was no less than Udaipur those days, the city of lakes. But if today you ask Namami Gange, an MCG, you file an RTI, they will tell you that there are 145 water bodies. But actually, I read somewhere that they are in the process of, deleting almost 230 or 232 water bodies from that. Even if you do that, can you go around Delhi and tell me that where those 700 bodies are there or not? It's an encroachment, it's a population, it's a bad planning, it's everything. So until unless, now we keep on talking, how to take people along with us. But how to do that? How to convince each and everyone that no, without water we cannot survive, and how we should take care of our water bodies much better than us, and water is not rocket science, as Dependerji said. Mughals and all those people, wherever they used to go, they used to build beautiful gardens, and they used to, create facilities for water reservation and all these things. At least finally, in Lal Killa and other water they were getting from Yamuna and other places. And if today we talk about traditional water bodies, traditional ways of water conservation, we almost are blank. We don't know that. All is not gone, all is not lost. You must have read about the City of Lakes program of the government of Delhi. I was told that in Pappalkala and in Nazafgarh areas, the groundwater level has been raised by 6 meters or not. I am not sure. Similarly, there is Neer Nirmal program in Gujarat, and we all know Rajendra Singh ji's and others' effort, what they have done in Alwar and other places as well. But finally, everything, boils down to us. What kind of environment, what kind of future life we want to give to our future generations, whether we want to devoid them completely of these water. And water has its value, And the second lesson which my guru used to tell me was that the water which dinosaurs used to drink, we drink same water. Water was not created in this world. So the opportunity cost, if only 3% surface mass, 70% people are living, and we are not taking care of our water bodies, recharging them, then we have to transport water from, 100 miles, 200 miles, as we are now doing in the case of Delhi and other metro cities. So either we are going to do that, but again, if everybody is coming to the cities, nobody is taking charge of their water in cities, then ultimately who will manage these city waters is a big question. I have seen the agenda of today's workshop, and it's very, very huge. Number one is regarding flood and other issues related with the urban water bodies. Second is very important. That's, what kind of construction, what kind of urban planning we have. Mind you, we have been following China like anything. And in China alone, from 2011 to 2013, the kind of construction material they used in 2 years, USA did less in entire 20th century. So that kind of rapid rat race which going, use of construction material. And even if you see the data of India, how much construction material we are generating, that's mind boggling. And how you are going to compensate it with good quality of air, good quality of water, that's a big question. So I think, second session will be very important. Third session is how you are going to create. There are many examples, like Prime Minister in his Mann Ki Baat yesterday talked about one very good example about, how at low cost you can create water bodies, how you can use its silt for fertilizer and other purposes. These are some of the very simple, very, kind of less costly ideas, which I think everybody, in panchayat level, in block level, district level, and in municipality level, people has to take care. Only thing is that until unless the municipalities, the NGOs like CSE and the people, they work in unison, this thing seems to be difficult and a very, dark kind of future ahead of us. Thank you very much for listening me patiently. Thank you.
Thank you, Yugalji. And a few points which are very well taken. One is traditional wisdom. Yes, we should not forget our traditional wisdom of preserving the lakes and water bodies. Another one you have actually focused on is the role of communities. This is very important, and we have tried to keep this in our workshop also, how to actually connect the communities with the rejuvenation of the water bodies. And the third one, which you feel is very important, is the need of integration of the lakes into the city planning. And you have correctly pointed out about the fractured governance. So the government departments not talking to each other. The catchment is under somebody, the water body is under somebody, and the channels conveying the rainwater is under somebody. And that has killed many of our lakes and water bodies in the cities. So thank you very much for coming. And we open the session. If you have any questions to our guests, you are welcome to ask. So please raise your hand. Anybody?
We have 3 sessions, we have time there also for Q&A.
Okay, so
She has to leave.
please introduce yourself.
I'm Siddhant from the People's Resource Center. I just came back from Bihar. There was a river dialogue happening over there. And so you talked about the Falgu rejuvenation. And some people told me that they are trying to rejuvenate it with the Ganga water, like the excess flood water. They will transport the excess flood water through pipes to Falgu in Gaya. So most of the complaints that they came up with that the water there is like very pungent. I mean, they tried doing it, and they're also trying to basically rejuvenate it through cleaning the water and providing it to the households. So there were so many complaints regarding that plan. So what's your views on that, sir?
Yeah, so basically, when we are dealing with this Niranjana River, at this stage, we are not planning that we will build pipelines or get this water from Ganga River into this river. What we are trying to do is that certain nature-based solution, which IIT Kanpur Sea Ganga is working along with the NMCG, and a DPR is being, I think, conceptualized, where they would see that what is the engineering solution to it. Also, we are looking at change in behavioral pattern, like planting more and more trees, changing the cropping pattern, so that the water comes into that area. Right now, I think there is already a rubber dam which was constructed to hold the water. In the rainy season, there is water in the river, but then the problem is that the slope is too steep, because of which the water does not stay. It comes down and goes beyond that. So we are trying to see that how we can kind of hold that water. This DPR is under construction, so there is no. I don't think there is a kind of this that we can recharge the river through pipelines. That will not work. So we are trying to have a permanent, sustainable solution to this. So still the DPR is in working stage, so I'll not be able to kind of completely spell out that how the solution will look like. But definitely it's not through pipeline. We are having a combination of nature-based solution and plus long-term initiative by guiding people that how they can kind of change some of their habits and pattern which can help in river rejuvenation. We already financed yatras and awareness campaign in that area, so that we are able to kind of educate people in that entire basin. And we got a lot of support from them. The huge numbers of people turned out in all those events. And going forward, hopefully, all these interventions will lead to revival of this river.
Any other? Please raise your hand.
I'm Professor Hina. I have a very simple, basic question. It's a very fundamental question to any of the speakers here. I think one of the speakers mentioned that probably urbanization itself starts the problems. So, कुछ tribal areas में जैसे अभी काम चल रहा है, and although even the government is doing wonderful programs for the economic development of tribal areas, and in one of the field visits we found in Bhil's area कि अभी तक उनकी वाटर बॉडीज की सिचुएशन ऐसी है कि यू कैन सिंपली इट्स ट्रांसपेरेंट, आप नीचे तक देख सकते हैं, एंड देयर लाइफ इज बिल्ड ऑन वेरी इकोलॉजिकल मॉडल्स, सर्कुलर इकोनॉमी. बट अब वहाँ पे हमें दिखने लगा है, आपका टॉयलेट दिखने लगा. जैसे ही आप फॉर्मल टॉयलेट लेके आएंगे वहाँ पे, माई पॉइंट इज यू कैन, आई मीन देयर कुड बी different set of solutions to it. That the moment toilet comes, the formal toilets come, there will be sewage, there will be piped water supply, and then starts the same process what we have done in urbanized areas. So what is your reaction? Should be the same set of solution be tried in tribal areas as well?
Yeah, I'll respond to that. During Swachh Bharat mission, the kind of toilets they promoted was called a technology twin pit toilet for rural areas where water tables are not very high, very high. And it was recommended for tribal areas as well. Now, twin pit toilet technology is very simple. What you do, you dig two pits, one of each, one diameter each, and 1 meter of depth. So there are two pits. So that every human excreta, it comes to one of the pits, other pit is closed. And it takes normally 4 to 5 years to fill one pit to a family of 4 or 5 or 6 people. So the idea was that when in 4 or 5 years, first pit gets filled, then the channel is moved to the second pit. And in first pit, after 1 or 2 years or 3 years, it becomes a manure which can be used. We had demonstrated it as well. We used to call it Sona Khat. And if this technology, if those toilets are well made, and it was demonstrated very well by IIT Roorkee and others, that if well made, they can be made in those 12,000 incentive money and they can be used, forever. However, in most of the cases, that's why this IEC, information, education, and communication becomes so important, that you are telling the right kind of technology, and even at grassroots level, they start, following that. In most of the places we found, in fact, there was one study by a British professor. He found that only at 40% places, these twin pit toilets were made. In rest of the places, either there was single pit, or people, instead of making those pits, they directly, channelized whatever was coming from their toilet to those drains and nalas and to those ponds. So that was issue, which was to be tackled at the grassroots level. There was not any technological flaw in that. Only thing is that, the communication issue was there. But you are right. Another thing is that, also how much that's why I talk time and again about the people's participation, involving people into these all things. So you are right in the sense that whenever any solution is provided by the outsiders who don't know the local situation, it creates problem. But if both work in unison, new technologies and the local needs and environment, then such problems can be avoided.
We'll take another one question. Yeah. Okay, two more questions. Okay.
Hello, my name is Anurag Verma. I have recently completed my PhD from Nalanda University, and I want to continue from the last question. In Bihar, Nalanda district, I have worked on groundwater quality, and there I have found a large pollution from nitrate, and it is basically coming from the latrine pit to pit system or from septic tank leakage. And I want to know more about that. Means from what is about that? I mean, it is contaminating nitrate, especially shallow groundwater.
Frankly, I am not sure human excreta has nitrates. How much and how many, I have not studied. If you can share that paper, maybe we can discuss it later. But I don't know. I
Okay.
have not heard about this.
Okay, let's restrict ourselves to water bodies. Your question is on water bodies? Yeah, please.
Good morning to all the panelists, and for having this discussion. Sir, what I understand from the discussions today is that urban areas contribute most to the plight of our water bodies. So, sir, I would just like to know if there are any new ideas or some discussions on this which can help to solve this issue.
See, urban river management, you have rightly pointed out that the urban part of pollution is the most significant for rivers. And that is why now there is a specific emphasis on urban river management plan. NMCG has already kind of piloted an alliance which is called RCA, River City Alliance, where we already have 144 cities member of it. Now we are trying to develop urban river management plans in those cities, where we would comprehensively look at all the aspects related to water planning of water and sanitation system in the city. Now it would be a kind of basically all 5 verticals of Namami Gange going at the ground level, like Nirmal Ganga, Aviral Ganga, Gyan Ganga, Jan Ganga, and Earth Ganga. All of this thing would be taken down to the grassroots level, where we would be looking at the problem of urban planning and river rejuvenation holistically. 3 urban river management plans have already been done. One is Chhatrapati Sambhajinagar, that's outside Ganga Basin, and Ayodhya and Kanpur in Ganga Basin. In fact, very recently, this Chhatrapati Sambhajinagar urban planning has also got an international award in New York. So that's how we are now trying to get the international best practices in the area of town planning and river management. And our focus is URMP. In fact, the Secretary DOWR is highly kind of inclined to take the river rejuvenation forward with urban river management planning plans. And there is a healthy river program which is being launched very recently, which is all for all other rivers other than Ganga. There, the entire development and entire planning is based on this URMPs. So there is an emphasis and impetus on handling urban pollution and urban hotspots by this URMP and following a comprehensive approach there.
So one more question. This is the last question we are going to take, and then we can close it.
Morning, I'm Krishna Swami from Sirutuli, Coimbatore. It's an NGO. We are working vigorously on wastewater treatment. I'd like to congratulate Sea Ganga for having identified a very good system, and I was given the opportunity to see the plant in Pune. My request is, how are you going to take this forward? It's a very good thing, and it's something which has to be, it's right now very slow. We should have taken it through more parts of the country. I just got one more point. And you please make clear policy on selling this treated water, at least part of this, to sustain the project. We are on the verge of putting up a plant with different technology, as well as one with Sea Ganga, 2 there in Coimbatore right now. So within about 6 months, you'll find both these plants operating. One is 1 MLD and Sea Ganga is 2.4 MLD. These 2 are there. So I need only 2 things. What are your initiatives in pushing this technology throughout the country? And second, policy on selling treated water. Thank you.
So I'll address both the questions. One is regarding this new technology which you're talking about. I think it's a modular STP, right? Where you are kind of treating into 2.5 MLD per module, and then you can put in. So we have already sanctioned a project in Mathura to Sea Ganga to demonstrate this technology. Now, here, I don't know whether I should say this on public forum or not, but till now, they have not been able to kind of put that technology in place, and somehow some thing or the other is coming up. This was kind of conceptualized that within 90 days, they would be able to put up this plant up and running. This was approved in month of February, and we are in September. It's still not yet there. So once the technology is proven, we'll see that how we can scale up. But first, it has to be proven, right? We know that it is functioning in Pune, and that is how we thought that we will give it for 80 BHU in Varanasi. But then we decided not to take the risk there, and we shifted it to Mathura. But it is still yet to come. So once that technology comes and proves itself, then we'll see that how we can scale it up, right? The second aspect is regarding putting a price to treated water. That again, I told you during when I was talking from the dais, that there is a comprehensive impetus and huge impetus on reuse of treated water. Now, whether it should be priced and whether we are yet ready to have water getting sold in market, that's one question we need to kind of look into, particularly the context of democracy where we are in. Also, by the end of this year, we may be having a platform where water can be sold on that platform. Similar to GEM, we are conceptualizing a kind of a platform where water exchange can happen. This project we are taking along with GIZ, where we can create a platform like GEM. You have a number of buyers, number of sellers who can Sellers will put in their product, buyers will put in their demand, and the two get together to finally take care of that. Similarly, for water also, we are trying to put in this platform. Let's see how it goes. So we are already into thinking on these lines and see that how these initiatives go. So for manufacture of this plant in various parts of the country. See, I do see, unless the technology is proven, we don't bother that where it is manufactured, how it is manufactured. That's not an issue. First, the technology has to go through that rigor and prove itself that it is cost effective and is generating the desired result. Then only we can kind of go ahead.
Thank you very much, Nalin Kumar Srivastav ji and Yugal Kishore Joshi ji. Thank you for your kind words and making time to come and attend this workshop and share your ideas. Thank you, sir. So we close the inaugural session over here, and we'll take a 2 minutes break just to arrange the first team